I know he's from Texas, and that's what people complain about.
God, he's an outsider. He done been dark-sided.
I was about to say that. Mama, I prayed for you. I did feel those prayers. I did feel those. I did feel those prayers.
May the Lord be with you.
And you as well. Is that how it goes?
And also with you.
And also, yeah, as you as well. I would see them
Something
say
like
that, and they'd be like,
that song, you did it wrong.
no, Kara.
Hello.
Hey, guys. Dark-sided. I like bacon. Bacon's good for me. King Curtis at your service. You ever Google something?
No.
Something,
I have never.
something else pops up for y'all. Oh, God, I can't stop. Okay.
It's like we pushed a button.
It just, once that
Every impression comes out.
Once that accent comes out, I have to do every one of them. Where's that Headless Saint book? God, get it out.
Okay.
Megan looked back to see if it was back there.
It's got to be back there somewhere.
It has to be.
Hey, this is the Witch's Magic Murder Mystery Podcast.
I'm Kara.
I'm.
Sometimes Megan.
I don't understand.
I honestly don't know. I just know that when we shift it,
because you fix it
when
every
we
time.
shift it in that direction, it just works better for you.
I feel like the last Friday episode I did
Yeah.
about the Loeb sisters
Uh-huh.
was just entirely too much of a downer.
Mm-hmm.
One of our Patreon subscribers even said that they thought this was maybe the saddest story we've ever done.
I saw that and I was like, oh no.
I'm so sorry
So sorry here.
that I did that to all of us.
Yeah.
And then, of course, this past Tuesday, I told you about little sweet Dorothy Good, which was also not
fun.
So today,
You got
I'm
it.
making it up to you
Okay.
with this story that is way less of a bummer.
Oh, fun.
So I'm just going to start talking.
Oh.
I'm not going to tell you what it's about.
Oh, okay.
First off, do we got anything else we need to say?
I don't know. My employees always ask, like, what's Megan telling you today? What are you telling Megan today? And I'm like, I never know what Megan's going to tell me. And
Nope.
they're like, that's scary. And I was like, sometimes it is.
I think it's fun.
I love it. I want to be surprised.
In May 1916,
1916.
Antarctic explorer Ernest Shackleton was in a bad situation. He had lost his ship to the ice and left most of his crew on Elephant Island. That's an ice-covered island off the coast of Antarctica.
Mm-hmm.
And when I say he lost his ship to the ice, I mean he was sailing through it and it froze
Oh.
because it was like new ice.
Yeah.
It said. I read the whole thing because I was trying to understand what that meant. And then they waited on the ship thinking, well, we'll stay here a couple months and it'll thaw. And it did not.
Oh.
So then they were like, well, we're going to have to
Get
off this ship. Yeah. So he left most of his crew there on Elephant Island. And then he and two other guys went looking for help at the whaling station in Stromness, which was on the northern coast of South Georgia Island in the South Atlantic. So they hiked for 36 hours over the mountains and glaciers
my gosh.
of South Georgia before finally reaching. Okay, let me start that over. They hiked for 36 hours over the mountains and glaciers of
lot.
South Georgia. Yeah, in the Antarctic.
Yeah, that's cold.
I mean, I got to quit complaining about being cold in this room. Remind me next time. Just be like,
Megan.
Ernest Shackleton. Before finally reaching their destination, and they were able to send help to rescue those that had been left on the ship. So when he talked about this later, Shackleton was like, there were only 3 of us, but I felt like there were 4.
Oh.
The 2 men with him felt this also. They were like, there was some sort of 4th presence accompanying them.
Just walking the
guiding
36
them along
hours?
the journey. One of the men later said, there was indeed one thing about our crossing of South Georgia, a thing which I have never been able to explain. Whenever I reviewed the incidents of that march, which was the month of March, I had the subconscious feeling that there were 4 of us instead of 3.
Huh.
T.S. Eliot was inspired by this and wrote a poem about it called The Wasteland. I'm going to read that to you now.
Okay.
I hope you all feel very cultured.
Yes.
Who is the third who walks always beside you? When I count, there are only you and I together. But when I look ahead up the white road, there is always another one walking beside you. made a joke in my head, but I'm...
Say it. Say it.
It's not time. It's not
Okay. Okay. Okay.
Gliding wrapped in a brown mantle, hooded. I do not know whether a man or a woman, but who is that on the other side of you? In a footnote, Elliot explained, the following lines were stimulated by the account of the Antarctic expeditions. I forget which, but I think one of Shackleton's. It was related that the party of explorers, at the extremity of their strength, had the constant delusion that there was one more member than could actually be counted. I gotta move my legs. This phenomenon is known as third man syndrome. I need to say that again. Hang on. This phenomenon is known as third man syndrome. And there are several recorded instances where people in traumatic situations report the feeling of some sort of unseen presence that offers comfort or support. In 1933, Frank Smythe, I think, Smythe.
That sounds...
Or is it just like Smith, but fancy?
I like Smythe.
Was trying to be the first person to summit Mount Everest.
Smythe
Mount Everest.
and Everest. We're adding all the things to these guys.
He was trying to be the first person to summit Mount Everest, and he'd started the climb with several other climbers. But as they got higher, as we've all heard about and seen, maybe if you watch that show, as they get higher, more and more people drop out.
Right.
Until finally it's just Frank up there by himself. And as he climbed toward the summit, Frank felt the presence of someone else with him. It was so strong that at one point he actually turned to offer a snack to his companion. Before he was like, oh, there's no one here. Ultimately, Frank did not reach the summit, but he did live to tell his tale. And here's what he said. All the time that I was climbing alone, I had a strong feeling that I was accompanied by a second person. The feeling was so strong that it completely eliminated all loneliness I might otherwise have felt. Interestingly, one study of cases involving adventurers who had experienced third man syndrome reported that the largest group involved climbers, with solo sailors and shipwreck survivors being the second most common group, followed by polar explorers. An Italian climber named Reinhold Messner.
Yeah.
That's a name.
That's a good one.
Had a similar experience in 1970. He and his brother were climbing in the Himalayas, and they'd made it to the top of the mountain they were on, but got into some trouble as they were trying to make their way back down. Messner wrote a book in 2011 and said, on one section, the front points of our crampons...
What? People are probably like, God, Karen, Megan, get some culture.
I think that these are something that attaches to their boots while they're climbing, or it is like those sticks that they use, because what it says is they were only biting a few millimeters deep into the glassy hard ice
with their crampons.
But also crampons is such a missed opportunity for like slang for tampon.
Yeah.
Like, come on,
crampons,
because you have cramps.
That's what I was thinking. Yeah,
that is really something. Anyway, that is not what he is referring to.
That is really something. That is really something.
At times, our whole weight was on our crampons and accents.
Yeah.
I'm going to leave out that sentence.
No, I love it.
Suddenly, there was a third climber next to me.
They also had crampons.
Wait.
But theirs were a little lighter.
I feel like I need to start this whole quote over so we get the full effect of his story. Okay? I've messed it up, but it's so good. Okay. On one section, the front points of whatever those things are were only biting a few millimeters deep into the hard, glassy ice. Suddenly, there was a third climber next to me. He was descending with us, keeping a regular distance a little to my right and a few steps away from me, just out of my field of vision. I could not see the figure and still maintain my concentration, but I was certain there was someone there. I could sense his presence. I needed no proof. So it's like they're just, you know how you sometimes you see something,
yeah,
but if you were to look, it wouldn't be
gone.
there. But
yeah.
when he's not looking, he's like, I know they're there.
It's like my ghost downstairs that hangs out at the bar.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Sadly, Reinhold's brother died during this descent.
Oh.
That's how dangerous it was. And when he tried to come up later with an explanation for what he'd experienced, Reinhold had this absolutely fascinating thing to say, which makes me think I would have been friends with this man. I managed to understand, he wrote, that the third man was just me watching myself from a different plane of existence. Right?
Whoa.
What a deep thinking man.
But also, it was beyond quiet. They're just on this trek. And so they're in enough, like not stillness, but you know what I mean? Like to where they could be in their own headspace to where he could.
In 1985, Joe Simpson and Simon Yates were climbing the Peruvian Andes. They'd made it to the summit, but like the guys in the last story I told you, they got into trouble when they were trying to come back down. Simpson fell and broke his leg.
Ooh.
Yates tried to help, but ultimately he had to end up cutting the rope that tied them together because where the one guy was hurt, he was going to pull him, drag him down. So this left Simpson alone and badly injured. And it's like, obviously, he's going to die.
Right.
But then he heard a voice. The voice was clean and sharp and commanding. This is a quote from him. It was always right, and I listened to it when it spoke and acted on its decisions.
Oh.
I had to get to the glacier. The voice told me exactly how to go about it, and I obeyed. It didn't seem to concern me that I was moving like a snail. So long as I obeyed the voice, I knew I would be all right.
Oh my gosh.
And it worked. Joe Simpson dragged himself forward until he ran into Yates and their camp assistant. It had been 11 days since he fell. They took him to the hospital, and he lived.
Oh my gosh.
So that one's even crazier because, like, how did he know?
How did he know?
You can't say that it was your own voice inside your head.
No, because that voice had no idea where he was supposed to go.
This next one involves someone from the University of Kentucky.
Ooh.
A geologist named Stephanie Schwabe, I think. In 1997, Stephanie was cave diving in a place called Mermaid's Lair in the Bahamas. So she was there to get sediment samples, but this was a particularly emotional trip because her husband and diving partner, Rob Palmer, had died.
Oh my gosh.
During a dive 3 weeks before this. So only 3 weeks earlier.
Oh my gosh. And she's back at work. Oh my God. Okay.
Rob and Stephanie had often gone to Mermaid's Lair together.
Oh.
So it was a really sentimental thing for her to be diving there again.
So she was like, I need to do this.
Soon after his death.
Oh.
While she was down there collecting samples, she realized that she had lost sight of her guideline. And so that's the thing that cave divers use to find their way back out of the underwater caves. Without the guideline, she was trapped.
Yeah.
And she only had 20 minutes before she ran out of oxygen.
Oh my gosh.
Suddenly, Stephanie felt flushed, and it was like everything around her became brighter. And she felt like there was someone else with her in the cave, and not just anyone. She was pretty certain that this was her husband, Rob.
Oh.
And he said something to her that he'd often said when she was alive. Remember, believe you can, believe you can't. Either way, you're right. Remember?
Oh my God.
With only a few minutes left, Stephanie looked upward and finally saw the guideline. As soon as she saw it, the presence in the cave disappeared and she made her way out.
Oh.
She is convinced that her dead husband saved her life.
Oh gosh.
So, are we talking about guardian angels?
Right.
Is this all in these people's imaginations?
Astral projection.
Is it like Reinhold Messner said, where this is just a different version of yourself on a different plane of existence?
Oh my gosh.
Popping over to hell?
Right.
Because if we believe in like multiple timelines, you know, maybe they're like,
oh, I've been there.
Yeah.
I know where you're supposed to go.
No one knows. A lot of people say it's a hallucination of some sort or a coping mechanism
But
triggered by
how?
extreme stress. And others believe it's like help sent from above. John Geiger wrote I don't know if it's a book or an article, but it's called The Third Man Factor, Surviving the Impossible. And he says there are several scientific explanations for this phenomenon.
Okay.
Like biochemical reactions to misfiring brain activity. But personally, he thinks a spiritual explanation makes the most sense. Okay. I gotta
She's got to get cozy to tell this.
Well, this is like my favorite part.
Okay. I can't wait.
Okay. Clearly, this is a quote from him talking to NPR. Clearly, there is a spiritual or religious explanation to this phenomenon. Many skeptics and non-believers also had this experience, and they attribute it to other explanations. And there is certainly some very interesting science behind this. If we understand that the third man factor is a part of us, the way adrenaline is, then we can start to access it more easily. I think that part is like, so you just got to think it's a reaction from your body.
Yeah.
It's not a hallucination in the sense that hallucinations are disordering. This, and he's referring to the whatever this presence is helpful and orderly. It's a guide. It's not a hallucination.
Right, because you'd be disoriented.
Right. It's an astonishing capacity if you think about it, said Geiger, and it sort of hints at this idea that as human beings, we are never truly alone, that we have this ability to call upon this resource when we need it most in our lives.
I love that.
That is basically what I said next. I said, and that I love.
Yeah.
That this is just a part of us. Like, it's happened to people throughout history, all over the world. And if you think about it as we can call upon this resource when we need it, like it's an energy source that we just have to access.
Yeah.
You just have to ask.
Just tap into it.
Yeah. And while third man syndrome is specifically referring to this presence during times of extreme stress, if you believe it's a spiritual thing, then you can believe that we all have the ability to access it.
Not just when
Because
you're
it's a
in
part of
a
us.
traumatic situation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, so many times the times that, like, if I pull an oracle card or something like that, and it'll be like, you have to ask for what you need.
Mhm.
You have to
Yeah.
speak your needs out loud.
Yeah.
And that's something I keep trying to teach my kids too. And I don't even mean like spiritually or from
Yeah.
the universe. I just mean like when you're dealing with people, you can't
Right.
expect people to
To
just
read
know
your
what you
mind.
want.
Yeah. I always
got
have to
to
tell
say it
stuff
out
that.
loud.
Yeah.
Because it just leads to a lot of frustration
Yes.
if you don't. But,
So
like,
much
Don't
confusion.
expect people to read your mind.
Mm-hmm.
But like, it's the same thing here. Like, I think sometimes we go through life thinking things aren't working out for me. But
Right.
it's also like, are you saying out loud what you need
Yeah.
and what you want?
Yeah.
Okay. On September 11th, 2001, Ron DiFrancesco was trapped in the South Tower. Tower? I don't even know why. Like
Diad. Diad. It's coming.
He
Yeah.
was trapped in the South Tower of the World Trade Center. He'd gone upstairs to get away from smoke and flames, and when he decided he should turn around and go back downstairs, there was a wall of fire.
Oh my
And
gosh.
at that point, Ron is like, this is it. I'm going to die.
Mm-hmm.
And then he heard a voice telling him to get up and walk through the flames. So he did,
Oh my gosh.
and he got out of the building. He was the last person to make it out of the South Tower alive before it collapsed.
Oh my gosh.
I know, I got chills.
That's crazy.
Here's another one that I just thought would be interesting to you guys. You can find, if you just start searching third man syndrome, you can find so many of these stories. So don't think that I'm just telling you
Yeah.
all of them. There's
Yeah.
so many. That's what makes it so fascinating.
That's so cool.
We all know Bram Stoker, who wrote
Mhm.
Dracula. This story is about Bram's cousin, Henry Stoker,
Oh.
which is just, I don't know. I never thought about Bram Stoker.
Yeah.
Of course he had a family.
He had a
He's just
family, but
person.
it's so weird. Yeah.
He was a Royal Navy officer who was captured during World War I. So he was
Mhm.
imprisoned for 3 years in the Ottoman Empire, and he spent a lot of time in solitary confinement in a 10-foot square cell with hardly any daylight. There were bugs, fleas, and rats everywhere.
Oh my gosh.
Finally, he and 2 others managed to escape, and during the escape, the 3 men began to feel that there was a 4th man among them. So this is really fascinating because they all felt it.
Yeah.
So if you're saying
It wasn't just.
this is just an imagination or hallucination, they
Right.
all felt it.
Yeah.
they
One
all
wasn't
felt the same
sick.
thing.
One wasn't feverish.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They said that the presence was especially strong if they found themselves in a tight spot, but would vanish when the immediate danger subsided.
Huh.
Stoker later said that he and his 2 companions agreed on the figure's presence and that the presence gave them a great sense of comfort.
Oh.
He never spoke, nor did he go ahead to lead us, Stoker wrote in his 1925 book, Straws in the Wind. His attitude seemed just that of the true and loyal friend who says, I cannot help, but when danger is at hand, remember always that I am here to stand or fall with you.
Oh, I love that.
I think the cases where they refer to the presence as a figure,
Mm-hmm.
and that happens so often,
Yeah.
is so interesting. And none of them are like, I told myself to keep going, or I told myself not to
Right.
give up.
Yeah.
They can tell that whatever they're experiencing
Is
is definitely
communicating
outside
something. Yeah.
of themselves.
Yeah.
So I can come up with a whole bunch of theories on that.
Okay.
So I think an obvious one is it's angels.
Yeah.
Or whatever you believe
Yeah,
angels
yeah.
to be.
Your guardian
Yes.
something.
Or like the ghosts of your ancestors.
Right.
Or just any ghost.
Yeah.
You know? Because maybe there are ghosts who are just like, I was gonna hang around,
Traveling
see if anybody
through.
needs me.
I know this terrain, so I'm just gonna.
I'm just gonna stay
I'm
here.
gonna help them through
I'm
it.
gonna hang out on Everest and be here just in case somebody needs me. I feel like that's what I do.
They just wander around.
What else are you gonna do
Yeah.
with your eternity?
Yeah.
So I'd be like, let's just go help people.
Let's just be friends with everybody. Secret
They're
friends.
gonna love me.
That's what they do. love it.
you in a different timeline. This is one of my favorites because you all know I totally.
Yes.
I don't know. I think the different planes of
Mandela
existence-
effect of, yeah.
Yeah, it's fascinating. And so the idea that it's you from the future, or just a parallel universe you
Uh-huh.
that has somehow found a way to connect.
Yeah.
Whether, I mean, it could be in the other timeline, maybe you're having a dream about this,
Right?
you know, or like, you know, how they talk about sometimes deja vu is just you've slipped over to a different timeline.
Yep.
Anyway,
I love that
I
theory.
could totally believe the
Yeah.
timeline.
Oh,
thing.
for sure.
Okay, the next theory I have in my brain, I hate a lot.
You do.
And this is honestly the one that, as I was reading these stories, this is the one that kept popping in my head, almost as if like, oh yeah, well, this is what it is.
That's got to be it. Aliens.
No.
Oh.
Although aliens is a good theory. But see, sometimes I think that aliens might just be our future. Our future.
We're just
Not
accepting
necessarily
it at
be
this
the
point.
future, but like what human beings evolved to.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah. Oh, God. I can't wait.
Okay, ready? If we believe in simulation theory, the person in charge of our particular story in the simulation, like whoever's in charge of this Sims game, is the one who's like, listen, you got to get up. It's not time for you to die
It's
yet.
not time.
I need you to go this way and this way and that way.
Here's a Band-Aid. Get moving.
I
I
hate that I have
the
that in my
Truman
head.
Show.
But I hate how easily I can believe in
Right?
simulation
Isn't that
theory.
what Truman Show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, here's the thing about simulation theory. Years ago, I had a friend who was the first person to ever introduce me to simulation theory. And the whole reason he was even talking to me about it is because of how much it terrified him.
Yeah.
And my whole thing on simulation theory is like, if we're living in a simulation, I will literally never know.
Yeah.
So why be afraid of that?
Yeah.
But also, thinking too much about it makes me deeply uncomfortable.
Also, why is my person making me go through all this
Good
random crap?
Look at my life
Yeah.
since March of 2023.
Are you just a garbage simulator? Like, what, controller?
What did I ever do to you?
Yeah, like, you created me, so why?
Yeah. You're so mean.
It's
So-
like Zeus up there just being like, God.
Let's cause some chaos and see
Yeah.
what happens.
It just drops.
So anyway, that is the third man syndrome.
Oh my God.
I do love it. I do love
I love
the
that
idea
a lot.
we need to think about it as you don't have to necessarily be in extreme stress. Maybe it's easier to access an extreme stress, especially for people who maybe have never even considered the possibility of such a thing before.
Or even like experienced adrenaline.
Right. But
So
for
then
us,
it's like, oof. Yeah.
who have more of a like,
Our lives are
like a-
stress.
well, no, what I mean is like, I think you and I, and probably a lot of you that listen,
Are more open to it.
are more open to
Yeah.
the idea that like there's energies and the universe,
Yeah.
and you know, you should ask for things that you want and all that kind of woo-woo stuff. So it's
I
fun.
love it.
It's fun to think about it. That
I
way,
still, I do believe a lot in that timeline, but I also am a huge fan of just ghosts wandering the terrain
too.
and
Like,
being
they're
like,
too. Let's do something here, guys.
I am so bored, and then being like, people,
yeah. Let's hang out.
let me figure this out.
just gonna
I'm
be
gonna
here
grab my skis
Be
and
comforting to you. It's
my
hard.
crampons,
You're right. It's
and I'm
cold out
gonna.
here. But I'm with you every
I've
step.
got this. We'll
I
go.
won't leave.
If
If
I'll
you
leave.
die, maybe you can do this too.
Yeah, woo, we're friends now. Wow. Woo.
Yep.
I love that.
I do too. I like that one.
Yeah.
And also, apparently, there are scientific explanations, but honestly, I couldn't find any. I did try. I was trying to give you all aspects, but really, the one thing I
It's
mentioned
the
about the misfiring
molecules
synapses-
in the nature of
I mean, things
the
that
trees are communicating.
things we could chalk it up to. Like we know hallucinations are a thing,
Uh-huh.
right? But how can there be multiple people having the
Same hallucination. Yeah. And they're not related. They're not near each other. Well, I mean, some of them were near each other, but
Right.
like all these stories, they didn't happen at the same time in the same place.
And that one guy felt it so strongly, he tried to offer it a snack, and it was just so like natural until he was like, oh, wait, there's nobody there.
Yeah, you're not hungry.
So
But the ghost was like, I am.
I
though.
could totally use a granola bar.
I would
Okay.
love one of those. I didn't even know those existed because I've been here
didn't
for
have those when I was
years.
I just really, I think it's fascinating to think about all the things
Wow.
that we don't know about the world still. You know?
Wow.
Okay.
I love that.
That's it. I hope this makes up for all the terrible stories I've told you lately.
Sorry, guys.
We love you.
So much.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.